What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be diving back into portfolios to talk about 5 things that you can do right now to your portfolio to kind of improve the style and the overall clarity, so that way all of your ideas and visions are properly interpreted by your selected audience. So I'm really excited to bring this video to you all. I think the portfolio is a really hard topic to cover, so hopefully this gives you even more tips and opportunities to create your portfolio in the best version possible. So that said, let's dive into those 5 tips so that you can get back to creating awesome designs. Now, before we jump into those tips, if you haven't seen my other portfolio tutorials and you want to just learn more about what the portfolio is, what's required, and how to put one together, I have 2 awesome videos that cover that, and I'll link them in the description or right here, so that way you can check those out before you come back to this video, because this video is really intended with somebody who has a portfolio put together and how to kind of enhance it and streamline that portfolio for you. But now that you're back here, or you already have a portfolio ready to go, one of the first and most important things you're gonna wanna pay close attention to is the format and formatting of your portfolio. So as a general process for what you should go through, you should kind of take a step back and remove yourself from the design mindset and take a look at it as if you were a viewer, or from the perspective of the audience you're intending to be viewed from. And when you do this, the most important things to think about are kind of the structure of that portfolio. How does the flow feel for the portfolio? How are the lengths of those projects? How do they feel? Do they feel you leaving a desire for more, or do they feel overbearing and that you can't digest all of the information from it? I really can't urge you enough to pay close attention to this, because you want to make sure that you're on the side of curiosity rather than leaving the viewer with kind of an overbearing feeling and feeling like they don't know where to go or don't know how to digest all this information that you've given them. For example, a quick check for this is to just look at a page from a distance or close by and just think about where your eyes are naturally going. And based on where those eyes are naturally going, think about, is that where you want them to go first? Or maybe it's not in the right direction. You start to tweak those ideas and it'll start to kind of put the pieces together a little bit for you. By doing this page by page, it's gonna give you a great indication of how your portfolio is going to be portrayed, and that way you can start to make tweaks based on how that is coming out. Now, in addition, another thing structure-wise that you should consider is kind of the page size and its dimensions. And it's also a good thing to consider the medium that that portfolio will be reviewed at. For example, I know that these days a lot of the reviewing is being done via cell phone. So if you have a portfolio and you want to kind of tweak it a little bit, you could consider having a portfolio that reads really well digitally on a computer as well as on your phone. It's a really great way to kind of gauge and make sure you're covering all of your bases now with the portfolio. This could just mean changing your page layout to be closer to a square rather than kind of a long rectangle, or maybe you want to go with a vertical format. That way, you know, it kind of constrains to both digitally well on the computer still and still translates really well on your cell phone. But again, I can't reiterate how important the structure is to your portfolio, because you could have a really amazing portfolio with lots of great work in it, but if people don't know how to navigate through your ideas and through your pages, then it's just not going to get digested in the way you want it, and you might get turned down for that reason alone. Now, lucky for you, I have a bunch of tips that can help solve this problem and just make this a little bit less daunting and streamline the process for you. So number 2, and that first step I would recommend, is taking a harsh and critical look at your text in your portfolio. This is something that's incredibly important, and it's often overlooked and can totally kill your portfolio if you're not careful enough. So to avoid this, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna check your font styles and see how consistent it is throughout your pages. And one of the things to check with this when you're looking at it is to see if the text is from the same family. And if it's not from the same family, I think it wants to be a similar font style, and you don't want to have more than probably 3 of them, because if you're choosing more and more, it's just going to get more complicated. So if you do go that route, just make sure that font is being used for the same purpose over and over again throughout your portfolio. This is just so important because it's going to take a portfolio that feels like you kind of threw all of your work together at the last minute and are just presenting it like a PowerPoint, to something that feels like it's very well thought out, it's very organized, it looks very clinical in a sense, and it looks like you thought of this book from the very start of your journey as an architect. So once you kind of have that baseline in check, the next thing you can go for to kind of further develop your portfolio and to kind of separate some of the information out a little bit easier is through text hierarchy. And in general, a great place to start is to start with 3 different font sizes for your project. It could be as simple as a title size, a text size, and then a caption size. This is probably the most common route and a place that I would start with. This will just help so much with guiding the viewer's eyes and letting the viewer know what's important and what's less important to that portfolio and to that project you're presenting. And then additionally, past some sizing changes, the last thing I would say is you could go down the path of whether a text is bold or it's underlined or italicized. I think all those things can help reinforce the theme and further develop your point you're trying to make. And then once you have all of that figured out, the last thing you want to check is just make sure that you're not doing overkill on the text. You want to make sure that it's really easy to read and enjoyable to read, and you're not leaving them with too much information to digest at once. This was actually a great tip I learned from my professor, and essentially the idea is that you only include as much text as necessary, so that way if they're reading it and they're starting to feel curious, they'll actually reach back out to you for more information, which is really great because it opens up a dialogue and opportunity for you to kind of really let them get to know you a bit more, rather than you're dumping all of your information on the page and they kind of just take it or leave it. Now, the third and the last formatting tip I'll say is on your image size and its clarity. This is again another super overlooked idea and can easily derail a viewer from being interested in you. And this is again just kind of a result of who we are as designers. I think we spend so much time in school or professionally on these projects and we want to just share everything about them. But in reality, we need to kind of step back and make sure the viewer can just take one step at a time and see things independently to make a better judgment about what you're doing. So as a general rule of thumb, you want to try to avoid having multiple images on a page, and if you can, only having one singular focal image per page in your portfolio. Because by doing this, you're really going to let your audience hone in on what you're looking at. You're going to have one image per page, text that relates, and then next page, text that relates to image. So holistically, as you move through the pages, you get a full understanding of that project rather than trying to dump it all at once and kind of clutter up the page. Now, this is definitely unrealistic at times, and I'm not saying only do one page all the time. There's definitely a lot of instances that you need more images. And I would just say you want to make sure that in those instances that you have a good idea of the ratio of the size. You want to make sure the main image is really large, takes up most of the screen, and you have 2 or 3 supporting images that kind of help boast that main idea, almost like a caption in a sense. And you just want to make sure that each page is still about that one image and those other things kind of support and act as a role for that main image. But in general, this will really allow a lot more white space to come back into your portfolio, really get you to focus and make sure your eye is looking at the right places at the right time, and really just start to create a really nice feel and flow to that portfolio for you. Now lastly, this should be self-explanatory. I shouldn't even have to mention this, but I'm gonna mention it anyways. Please make sure all of your images are of high quality and are not blurry or skewed. This is the last thing you want. It's an instant turn off for reviewers, as it just makes it seem like you never looked at it. So just make sure there's no blurry images in your portfolio. Okay, now let's move on from all the formatting and let's talk about the next tip, which is another really important one, which is the use of themes. Now, I think themes is an incredibly hard topic to talk about because I think as designers, we tend to think this means having some grand vision or idea that kind of carries through and ties all these projects together. Now, if you have that, that's great, but themes in general can be simpler and can be done in a lot simpler way than you might think and can be really easy to implement in a few different ways. And one of the simplest ways I would suggest you could do this is through the use of color. So I would say you could try having a color or a series of colors that are going to appear throughout your portfolio. This could be through the use of colored titles or using color to highlight important text or ideas in your projects. And it can really just be as simple as that. It's something that will tie all of your projects together and make it feel like these are all connected in a sense, especially if you start the theming very early on, like let's say in your cover. But you could take it further. You could start to implement other things like little icons or things that kind of trickle through periodically. But in general, you can really keep it as simple as that. And it really is a theme at the end of the day. Pretty much my recommendation is to just look at some other portfolios on Behance and then keep it really simple and have fun with it. It's at the end of the day, it's your style, it's your choice. So make it yours ultimately and have fun with it. And the last tip is on one of the most important aspects of your portfolio, which is unfortunately the cover. Now, I know the cover is incredibly hard and it's probably one of the most annoying parts about the portfolio, but it is unfortunately the first thing people see, and for that reason, it is one of the most important aspects of your portfolio. So that said, my recommendation initially for covers is to just set a lot of time for them and maybe do them last and let your portfolio become something and then think about the theming. But also just look on Behance and some other issue websites that you can check out other people's portfolios for inspiration. And then once you have some inspiration, maybe you put your portfolio together, I want you to start first of all with creating something very simple that has all of the content right, the colors right, the font right. And then, and only then, once you have a nice simple cover put together, you can start to move towards something that might be a little bit more custom or something that you might want to do that feels unique and striking. This is because you're way better off with just having your name and portfolio or selected works on there with some nice colors and text as a really easy, clean kind of cover page, instead of going in some random direction that you're not really sure about or you really like, and then putting it on your front page and letting people make an initial judgment on you before they've even seen your work. So start simple and then push forward into something that becomes more creative and thought out. For me, I think a really cool idea and something I did with my portfolio is I kind of introduced some of the ideas of themes through color and through a dotted line that you'll definitely see as it comes throughout the rest of the pages. So it's really done in a simple way, but it's really effective at the same time. And luckily enough, if you are pressed for ideas, haven't put a portfolio together, don't have any covers, I do have some downloadable content to get you started and have some templates for you. But anyways, those are 5 things that you can do to your portfolio today that can really help kind of streamline it and take it to the next level. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And if you have any more questions, be sure to drop a comment or reach out to me privately, and I can do my best to give you the best guidance that I know for this subject. But in general, I hope some of these tips were helpful to you and have you feeling proud about your work that you all have worked so incredibly hard on. So that said, thank you all for listening and hanging out today. If you found this video helpful and have been enjoying the content lately, be sure to hit the like button and also subscribe for more content related to landscape architecture and urban design. And be sure to ring the bell to see all of my future content that's going to be coming out on the channel going forward. Anyways, that's all for today, so take care and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.